And we're back here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. The Semester 2 season of Temple Sports Hour is back here with you. Jim Fassel was a legendary coach with the New York Football Giants from 1997 to 2003. He got that team to a Super Bowl where they did lose to those Baltimore Ravens, and after he left the New York Giants, he was the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens from 2004 to 2006. So let's welcome in the head football coach, Jim Fassel. Jim, Zach Gelb, Chase Senior, Hayley Condon, how are you?
I'm doing fine, guys. Good morning.
Well, thank you for coming on with us. And it's interesting because we've seen another year of your name getting passed over as an NFL head coach. 8 new coaches were hired this year. When you're sitting there, and I know that you're in the UFL right now and you've had some success winning 2 championships, have you ever been able to put a pulse on this thing while you haven't been able to get back as an NFL head coach?
Well, I think a lot of it has friends. You see a lot of guys out there. Brian Billick tried for one job, and he didn't get that. I'm not so sure that some of the names thrown around are being pursued by teams that you think. It's people are going for the young, hot coordinator and things like that. And I've had calls, okay? I've talked to teams, and I never discuss who I interview with or talk to. But, I guess with me, I've turned down some opportunities the last couple of years. Go back and a coordinator. People say, go back and coordinate in the league. That's how you get back in it. And I didn't feel the necessity to do that, nor I was deeply involved in trying to make the UFL work. So I'm happy with it. I mean, people think, well, aren't you just dying? No, I'd go back to the right situation, but I'm not going to go back for a situation that I'm not sure is able to be successful.
For people that really don't follow the UFL, tell me on the UFL, what's really exciting about it? Because you're a coach and you've had a lot of success with it, but it doesn't really get that national attention. Well, what excites you about the UFL?
Well, the worst thing we've done is the business model from the standpoint of marketing and those type of things. Because what is good about it is we've got high-quality players. I think I've had 5 players off last year's season signed back to the NFL. I think over the 4 years, we had somewhere between 150 and 200 players signed back. So you got quality players. They're fun to coach. They really want to get better, and they want to get back in the NFL. So they're just wonderful guys, very competitive to get back in it. And I told Marty Schottenheimer when he was looking at getting back to joining our league, I said, Marty, the only thing I can tell you, you'll never enjoy coaching more than this. I understand the NFL's got all the publicity and pay a lot of money and do all those things, but as far as pure enjoyment, and I said, after 39 years of coaching, I'm ready to really just enjoy the job. And he told me that when we played him in the championship game the 3rd year. He said, Jim, you're right on. I've not enjoyed coaching anywhere more than this.
Chip Kelly's the new man here in Philadelphia. He comes over from college in Oregon. He had a very interesting system there. Do you think his system will translate over to the NFL and have some success? What's your thoughts about Chip Kelly?
Well, I think he's an outstanding coach. He's done a great job at Oregon. But as he'll know, he'll have to adjust some things because, the biggest problem you have is that the defenses are so much faster, so much more athletic, bigger, and the problem is you look at any movement quarterback, the guy that they use to run the football as a threat, they can't play it like they did in college because those guys get hurt. I mean, RG3, phenomenal quarterback, phenomenal athlete. I think this year he got hurt 3 times. Maybe shouldn't even come back and play. I don't know, and I don't need to comment on that. But all the guys that run the football as part of the run game, they take some vicious hits. And a quarterback, you can't get him ready for those hits because you're not going to hit him in practice. Okay? And so, and if you look at the history, it's like, let's take Kaepernick from the 49ers. All right? The guy can run with a football. But it's part of how he beats you because he can beat you in the pocket or out of the pocket. So you got to get that. And to me, you've got to have, if you have Michael Vick, you got to have 2 or 3 Michael Vicks because he's going to miss time. And I think that the speed of the defense is what really can hurt. If people dabble in it, okay, then they're successful. But if it's their major offense, I wonder how long that'll work. It could work. I could be wrong, but I've not seen it work in pro.
Jim, Chase Senior here again. Thanks so much for joining us. You went head-to-head against the Philadelphia Eagles in the late 90s and early 2000s. Obviously, in the last couple of years, they have failed to find success, and now the whole organization is turned over. What are the Eagles lacking now that they did in the early 2000s when they were finding success and making it to the NFC Championship and being in the playoffs every single year?
Well, I mean, they've always had a great organization. I always thought that they did a phenomenal job of personnel. The general manager is still there. They got some of the parts that were theirs. And, but time in any athletic endeavor, I don't care what you're talking about, football, basketball, baseball, you're never going to just stay at the top and just stay there. I mean, there's changes with personnel, there's changes coaches that affect your ability to be good. But they had a long stretch of being good. Now they're going to reorganize the thing, start over from scratch, and then again they'll have their run. I mean, you take it like this. I've said this before. The most pressured game I ever coached was not the Super Bowl. It was the biggest game I ever coached, but not the most pressured. In the 2000 season, we got the home field advantage for the NFC. The whole thing. We're number one seed. We had a bye. Philadelphia played Tampa and beat them. Philadelphia's coming to Giants Stadium to play us. We had beaten them 8 straight times. For 4 years in a row, we beat them every time. If they came into our stadium and beat us, that would have been a huge blow for our whole organization. That was the most pressured game, and it was a heck of a game, but we beat them. And then after that, when they got going and they got the thing built, then it was kind of back and forth. But we had their number, and if I'd lost that game with home field advantage, that's what I feel for Denver. They had home field advantage, so the team came in and beat them. That is really tough for your fans, your organization, ownership to take over.
We're talking to Jim Fassel, former NFL head coach with the New York Football Giants, led the Giants to that Super Bowl, and where they did lose to the Baltimore Ravens, as you just mentioned. And, Coach, it's 2 weeks to prepare for the Super Bowl. I've been down to the last 4 of them, so I know everything that goes on with Radio Row, the media day, and all that stuff. With 2 weeks, how do you prepare for the Super Bowl? Give me some insight how you prepared for it back in 2000 when your Giants got there.
Well, that was the first time for almost our entire team. I think we had 2 guys that had been to the Super Bowl. I had never been to the Super Bowl. None of our coaches had been to the Super Bowl. One of our coaches had been to the Super Bowl. I called Bill Walsh, who's a friend. I called Mike Holmgren, and I called Mike Shanahan. And I just asked their advice on what they did. Not that I took all their advice. I just wanted to get some advice, and it was sound advice. And you look back on it, and I think about, what would I have done differently? Then you go, well, wait a minute. We took the advice, so I don't think anything we did was wrong or different. But, basically the thing is, while you're at home, put in most of your game plan. Get your game plan in. Okay? You're away from the distractions. And then leave some things to install to keep the players' attention. Like maybe your goal line and short yardage, you're backed up, maybe the red zone. Leave that alone and then install that down at the Super Bowl so you still have new information for them. And then, we went down there, and then we got down there. I might go in a day later. We went down Sunday just as a travel day. And then Monday, I just gave a day off, and I said, get everything straight. If you have any issues with tickets for your family, hotel rooms, anything that comes up, I want it taken care of on Monday. And then we do the media day on Tuesday, and then starting, I gave them Sunday night, Monday night off, and then starting Tuesday night, they were on lockdown.
Well, yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how everything goes down. And you look at all these offenses in the NFL. If I were to ask you before the season, most people would say Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, those guys would be in the Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers as well. And you look at these two offenses from a standpoint between the Ravens and the 49ers. The Ravens, they changed their offensive coordinator halfway through the season, and the 49ers went through a quarterback switch. But when you look at the kid Colin Kaepernick, who led this team to a Super Bowl replacing Alex Smith, what stands out to one Jim Fassel, who's the offensive genius, about Colin Kaepernick?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I didn't study this guy. I've watched him play plenty of times now. He is, I don't know why. And there probably is a reason. There's a lot of guys looking at it. But I don't know why that guy wasn't included in the top 3 in the quarterbacks they could have fallen. I mean, the guy is the fastest guy in the league at quarterback. When he went to Indy Combine, I talked to my son, who coaches with the Rams, Eli Manning, okay? Basically, you'd have to say they all can beat you from the pocket. All right? They can beat you from the pocket. And that's true. And they can, and they have. They won Super Bowl. But when you add a dimension of a guy that can beat you in the pocket and beat you out of the pocket with his legs, I've not seen a guy come in the league like this. I mean, go back to Donovan McNabb. I was coaching there. He could beat you out of the pocket, and we tried to prevent him out of the pocket. We didn't think he could beat you from inside the pocket throwing the ball until years later, then he developed that skill. This guy has more composure. He has the composure of a 10-year vet. When he gets out of the pocket, he doesn't run for 8 yards and slide. He might run up for 60 yards and a touchdown. And he's very accurate, and you can't rattle him. You know, he threw an interception the game before, and he just came back firing away at him. So this guy is unlike anybody I've seen come in as a rookie.
Jim, sticking with the quarterback position.
Second year.
Sticking with the quarterback position, you being a quarterback at Cal State University back in your playing days, if you could come back in the NFL as an offensive coordinator or a head coach, and you could have one or two quarterbacks to start your team up, who do you think you would choose out of the Bradys, the Mannings, etc.?
Well, you know, that question needs about 4 questions from me, what we're talking about. If we're talking about starting and building a franchise, okay, I mean, I would take Luck or I'd take Kaepernick, without a doubt. Young guys, and they've proven themselves already. They've been, you know, I've never seen young quarterbacks come in the league and get their teams to playoffs and deep in the playoffs. If you're talking about, okay, I'm coming in, but we got about a year or two to win, well, then you might lean towards Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. Those would be the guys that I would lean to. It just depends on, are you looking for long-term or short-term?
Kaepernick, to me, it's just so interesting because he comes in halfway through the season, replaces Alex Smith, who did get this team to the NFC Conference Championship game. And like you mentioned, coaches, we're talking to Jim Fassel, his speed is just so lethal. And you look at this Ravens defense, you know, they're not that young anymore. They're old, and I know Ray Lewis is still playing at an exceptional rate. Ed Reed has went down a little bit in his career, but he's still a Hall of Fame player. But Kaepernick's speed has to be a concern if you're the Ravens defensive coordinator, because if he spreads them out like he did in that Green Bay Packers game where in the divisional round, it's going to be a long day for the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, it is, and I think the number one thing, well, first of all, back up. I'll say people ask me what is the most important thing to happen in this game? What's going to be the deciding factor? And I said Colin Kaepernick, because he's a game changer. He is a total game changer. Now, what you have to look at defensively is when we played against, say, Steve Young or Donovan McNabb, after about his third year, he was starting to be effective throwing it from the pocket. Okay? Is this. You have to have a controlled rush on him. Squeeze the pocket. Okay? You got to capture him in the pocket. Don't let him out, number one, and then try to get to him. Now, if you got a guy that can't beat you out of the pocket, well, you can be a lot more liberal with your rush lanes. You know, beat your guy anywhere you got to go, because if he escapes the pocket, he's not going to take off and run for 40 yards. Yeah, he might get out of the pocket and maybe find a receiver and or throw a dump off at 6 yards or something like that. Okay, so you can go after him more aggressively. We played a scrambling quarterback that could run and beat you from there. We wanted to say, don't try to kill him, just capture him. Squeeze the pocket tight. But everybody, lane discipline in rush is a key factor. And I think they have to do that, because if guys get out of the rush lanes on this guy and there's nobody open, he'll beat you. He could rush for 200 yards.
Coach, I got one more question for you. Only got 30 seconds because I have to take a break real quick. Strahan, he's going to find out if he makes the Hall of Fame on Saturday. You coached him in your career when you were with the Giants from 97 to 2003. You think Strahan gets in the Hall of Fame this weekend?
I think he should, and I think he will. Michael was a great player. He had explosive strength. What an athlete. And he played the left defensive end coming from the right side, and that's where you put a guy that plays the run. But he was effective on the pass rush.
Jim, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much. Let's do it again real soon. Enjoy the Super Bowl.
Okay, guys, good to talk to you.
Yep, thank you.
Jim Fassel right there. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back right after these short messages.